Hi, Mario. Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
I'm a good, thanks. Hold on a second. I'm coming back. I'm waiting for it.
Yeah. Morning, Harold.
Hello, good morning.
You cold?
No, I just walked in from shul.
Oh.
I was in such a hurry to make it up. You know what? You're right. I think we back it up. Yeah. There we are. Okay.
Morning, Ellie.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. We're on Nun Beis 52. Mishnah. Yisomim shesam choitzel balabais. Yisomim that a neighbor, for example, is taking care of them. They weren't appointed either by the father or the beis din. O shemina lem avin apotropos. Or in a case where the father officially appointed someone to be their executor, chayev laser peruseya. He has to make sure that trumas and meisos are given from their fruits before he feeds them. Then apotropos shemineu avi yisomim. If the father appointed the executor, so at the end when they have become adults, and he has to make a cheshbon with them as to how much he spent, etc. Yishava. He has to take a shvua that he didn't take, something that didn't belong to him. Minu Bezdin lo yishav. But if Bezdin appointed the executor, then he doesn't have to take an oath. Abishol Omer Chiluv Tvarim. Abishol is the opposite. That if the Bezdin appoints it, they have to take a shvua, and if the father appointed, they don't have to take a shvua. Tomorrow we'll explain all of this. Vreminu, I'll ask you a stira, that where it says that the apotropos is chayiv meiser. It says, Kein tarimu gam atem trumas Hashem. Atem v'lo shutofi. So you have to take meiser, but not a partner cannot give trumas meisos for his partner. He has to do only his part. Atem v'lo arisin, not the sharecroppers. Atem v'lo apotropin. You have to do the meiser, not the executor. And v'lo atorim esrein shalom. You cannot give trumas meisos on something that doesn't belong to you. So, how can the apotropos give trumas meisos that doesn't belong to him? Amrav Chisda loy kasha. Kan lach, our Mishnah that says he has to give trumas meisos. That's when he's feeding food to the yisomim from these payros. They're not allowed to eat tevel, so he's allowed to give meiser on the stuff that he gives them to eat. But kan, the baraisa, is laniach, to set aside fruits in a warehouse. Since he's not the owner of the tvua, he doesn't have the permission to do it. Not Tanya. There's a brisa like this. Apotropin, tormin u'maisrin lachiv lo laniach. An executor can give trumas and maisras to be able to feed the Yisomi, but not to set aside. U'moichin lahem behema avodim u'shpachos botim sadus u'kromi lachil. If he needs to raise cash to buy food, he can sell on their behalf animals, avodim, houses, fields, vineyards, avalola niach, but not, for example, to sell and put the money away in the bank. He has to keep their assets intact without selling them, unless they need to eat. He can sell fruits, wine, fats, flowers. Again, if he needs cash to feed them, but not to set aside in a bank. V'oisin lahem lulav arava sukkah v'tzitzis. He can buy for them with this money that he raises on the sale of these things, mitzvahs like lulav, arava, sukkah, tzitzis, as long as it has a defined price. What is that? Lasui shoifer, to include a shoifer. V'lochin lahem sefer Torah tefillah mezuzahs. You can buy for them a sefer Torah tefillah mezuzah chol davar sheish lo tzava. Lasui megillah, where they have a megillah sester. But in poiskin alam, the executor is not allowed to make a public donation stock. Oh, we donate on behalf of the Yisomim $1,000. Vein poin aleihem shvuyim. You can't use their money to redeem prisoners. Anything that doesn't have a set price. What does that come to include? To buy things to help Avelim go through their Avelis, again, the apotropis is not allowed to take money from the Yisomim for that. Vein apotropin rishon lodun. The executor cannot go to court to represent them for either liability or some kind of schus. Why shouldn't, if they stand to gain, why shouldn't he go to court? He cannot go, let's say you start adjudicating about a liability, but it might lead to a schus. They can't do that because it's too risky. Ve'napotropin rishai limkor rochob v'ligol karov. They cannot sell a field that's in a faraway place to use the money to redeem a piece of property of their father that was close. Even though you think it makes sense, because that way they'd have closer fields, but it's also usher besode ra l'go b'yofen. You can't sell a bad field and to buy a good field. Why? My timer. Because you never know. Dilma mishtatfin. Maybe they'll flood the ones that they buy, and the apotropis then will have caused a loss for you to sign it. He doesn't have the right to do that. V'napotropin rishai limkor sadois v'likach avodim. He cannot sell fields to buy avodim. But you can sell an evet to buy a field. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel oimer aflo limkor avodim v'likach sadois. You can't sell avodim either. My time up. Dimalom shapian. Maybe the fields are not good, or they have some kind of legal dispute. And then again, the executor has gotten them involved in some problem. The executor cannot free an evet. They can sell them to others. and the others can free them. Rabbi Omer Ani, Afu Noisin Dmeatzma V'Yotzne. The Eved can give them his value and he can go out. Neishu Kamachrolo. Like he sold the Eved to himself. So he can do it himself, but not somebody else. When they become older, and he gives them back all the assets for them to deal with it personally, he has to sit down, give them a cheshbon, all the expenses and that one and revenue that came in during the time that he was the executor. He doesn't have to do it. We rely on the fact that he was a yosher. You can't appoint an executor, a woman, an eved, or cotton. The minan obvious soimim are shuspiyah, but the father can appoint these. There was an executor in the neighborhood of Rav Meir. He was selling land and avodim, and we learned that you're not supposed to do it. Rav Meir didn't allow him to do it. They showed Rav Meir in a dream, Ani laharos v'ata livnot. From, it sounds like HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted these assets to be petered away. So, in essence, it was a hint to Rav Meir to allow the apotropos to do what he wanted. Afilu achi lo ashgach. Rav Meir didn't listen to the dream. Omar divrei chalomis lo malav lo meir, we can't paskin based on chalomis. How do they trade the Igru Buhu Sutton? There were two people fighting, and the Sutton, Kolbe Shimshi, every Erev Shabbos have a Kominsu Badi Adodi. The Sutton showed up to cause these two neighbors to fight all the time, Erev Shabbos. Ikal Rameir Lahasa. Rameir went there. Achvinut Lasa Be Shimshi. He occupied being with these two neighbors every Shabbos for 3 Shabbos in a row. Ad Avad Lushama, they made peace because he prevented the Sutton from being there. Shmaidika Omar, he overheard the Sutton saying, Vai da Afke, Rav Meir lahu gavram bebeise. Woe is to me, meaning the Sutton, that Rav Meir threw me out of these people's houses. And that led to the fights. Now there were no more fights. There was an executor in the neighborhood of Rav Shua ben Levi. He was selling the Yisomim's land and oxen. He shouldn't be doing that. But Lo Amar Lo V'Lo Midi, Rav Shua ben Levi didn't say anything. Sover La, Rav Yosi. He had like Rav Yosi. The Tanya Rav Yosi, Miyame like Karisi li Ishti, Ulashori Shori. I never called my wife, or my ox. Ela li Ishti Beisi, Ulashori Sadi. I called my wife my house because she's the Akeres Abayis. And to my ox, I called my field because without the ox plowing, I wouldn't have a field. So he held that selling oxen like karka, or if you buy an ox, it's like buying land. So if he's buying oxen, he shouldn't interfere with that because he sold fields and bought oxen. And it's like selling one field and getting another field. There were Yisomim that were being taken care of by a certain old lady. Havaluhu Torsa. She had a cow. Shaklav is Vintaniyalai. She sold the cow for them. Also, Krovim Lakami Rav Nachman. The relatives of the Yisomim came to Rav Nachman. Amrulay, Maya Vedita de Zavna. She shouldn't have sold it. What rishus did she have? Amr Lahu, it says in the Mishnah. Yisomim Shusam Chayzel Balabaistanan. It doesn't need to be appointed by Bezdin. The Mishnah says even if they're by a neighbor. She's living with them and she's dealing with them. She has the right to do that. But the cow or the meat of the cow became more valuable and they didn't benefit from the rise in price. So he answered, but the guy who bought it had the profit. It's not a loss to them. The guy who bought the cow didn't give money yet. Oh, in Cain, assets of Yisroel Hegdesh because they have the upper hand. Even though normally Inyanim are done through Mashicha or Agba, where the buyer actually takes it in his possession, if they're treated like Hegdish, that the kinyan isn't finished until money changes hands. So since money didn't change hands yet, they can either take their money, get their money back at the higher price, or give the animal back to them. So they can benefit from the higher price. Ravna Ukva Yisarma. The wine of Ravna Ukva, who was a Yasam, Mashchu, they did, the people who bought it did Mashicha, Ba'arba Arba, when the barrel sold for 4 zuz. In the meantime, Iyakar became more valuable. The Kambashisa Shisa. Now the barrel was, before they finished the transaction, was worth $6 a barrel. Also, the Rav Nachman. It came to Rav Nachman. The transaction doesn't close less money. So all you did was Mashicha. So either they pay him the higher price or the transaction is aborted and they get it back. Moshuch Perimiyas. If someone did Mashicha on payros in purchasing fruit from the Yisoyim, and then Iyakir, then it became more valuable. Same thing, Hanin Rav Chanel Bar Idi, that it doesn't close unless Kesef is changed hands. And they can go back out from the deal to get it back so they can get a better price. If the opposite happens in Zol, and the buyers want to give it back to them, no. The koch of Yisoimim is not any worse than anybody else, since there was Mashicha, and for most people, the Mashicha is koina, so we protect the Yisoimim on both sides. And the other way, if the executor does Mashicha, he's buying fruits, and the Yisoimim need fruits, and he does Mashicha on the fruits. Now, Iyakir, if they've now become more valuable and the one who sold it wants to get a higher price, no. They already did Mashicha. And then Imzol, if they got less costly, Swarmine, they go back to Amrav Kanel Baridi that the deal isn't closed unless Kesef is done, Kesef is paid, and they can abort the transaction, and they can buy it for the cheaper price. Amrav Shesha Bred Ravidi. This is bad. There's a certain bad aspect. Sometimes they're going to need fruit. And people will, once they hear about all this shenanigans, they won't give them the fruit unless they pay cash. And that's not easy for people to pay cash. So when they do Mashiach on Peiros, they should not necessarily go back on the deal. And
Can you say a star to be equivalent to cash? If I buy something from you, I give you a star for IOU. That's not the same as cash, right? Because this is talking about, this is a verbal thing. But if you give Mamash a star, would a star be equivalent to cash then? To make it a concluding deal? If I buy something from you and then I give you,
In general, a star was used when you bought land. I don't think a star, right there, because there was, when it's documented in a star, then you can collect from Mishtubadim if there was a previous lien on the property. I don't think it was common to buy metaltalin. You either gave cash or you did Meshicha or Agba. I don't think a star was used for.
No, but if he gave Ed a Mashiach and he says, I
our
buy
cash-
from you and you give me the
I mean,
product,
Cash is an IOU. It's cash. Oh, it's full credit and faith of the United States. They use silver. They use coinage. They use real value.
Right.
That's kesef. So even our dollars is like a star. So they could use. That would be considered cash.
if
Our cash would be considered a star, but it would be considered cash.
So if I gave you an IOU in terms of
I
IOU,
wouldn't say an IOU.
the money.
I wouldn't say IOU. A dollar bill is that the federal government owes you. If you go to the Fort Knox, they'll give you $1 worth of gold.
Okay, that's so kesef is like the dollar bill, but mamish a note. Like I gave you a note that I owe you for the merchandise that I bought from you. So would that could that be considered a Mashiach that I can't go back on the deal? I
have
owe you
I have no
the money?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Okay, because we're talking about here when he makes a Mashiach of something, and he doesn't give me a kesef.
Right, but I just think so. The Chenvanese would do a pin kiss, just like the old storekeepers. They would keep, a ledger, but there wasn't a star written. A star was written when you bought a piece of land. That's a star mechira for
I
land.
see.
I think the Chenvanese kept a pin kiss, so they just kept a tally, and then you ended up paying. You didn't have to pay them right away. You paid them after a month or however that worked. And if you gave somebody an IOU, so I don't know whether that would be considered like cash or not.
Okay.
Yovi asked me, Zuzi Aperi, if the Yisomim gave cash for the fruit, Zol, if the pears got cheaper, so Lo Ye Koichet, the guy can't take it back from the Yisomim because it shouldn't be Chomer Min HaHegdish. Or in that case, yeah, they can go back because it's going to be like Hegdish and they want to get the cheaper price. And it wasn't Mashiach. They can say, oh, it doesn't close without Mashiach. And then Iyaker, if it got more pricey, that the Yisomim, if they want, can use Kesef to close the deal. It's always to benefit them. This also would be bad for the Yisomim. The sellers will say, listen, what was the reason why Chazal instituted Mashiach? Because a seller will have a warehouse. And if you only close the deal with money, he has no incentive to watch your wheat anymore. So the wheat goes up in flames. The sellers will tell the buyers, listen, your wheat burnt up in my warehouse. That's why Chazal said, take the wheat, do Mashiach, do Agba, take it in your possession. That way the Moicher can't say Nisrafu Chitas Chambaliyah. Because they don't have any incentive to watch it anymore. Because they got their money. Let's say buyers bought payros from the Yisomim. The Yecholim can go back on the deal and demand a higher price because there was no Mashiach by the buyer. Im Zol, that the Kenyan, if it got cheaper and the buyers want to go back on buying it from the Yisomim because they want to get the cheaper price, they can say, no, we are like Hegdish, and we can close our deal with Kesef. That could be bad for the assignment. Sometimes they're cash poor. But look at the Avla pay. And sometimes people will not give them the cash and you actually give them the payrolls. So in all these cases, they brought evidence that some of these takonas would not benefit the assignment. Ravashi, Aniv Rav Kana Chasim in Ashtara, the Imeziri Yasma. We signed on a star of the mother of Zeira, who was a Yasam. She was the executor for the estate. The Mizavna Ara, she sold a piece of land to pay karga, to pay the property tax, and she sold the land below achrasta without a public announcement. Normally, an executor is not allowed to do that. You got to do a public announcement so they get the best price. But Rav Ashi and Rav Kana signed on the star anyways. The Amri Nardo, the karga l'mezoini, for the property tax, for mezonos, food for the children, ulikvura, and to bury the mace who died, mezavninan, below achrasta. You can sell property of the somim without an announcement. Amram Sava, Amram the dyer, Apetrobet the Asmavi was appointed an executor. Also, Kroyim Lakamid Rav Nachman. The relatives had complaints. We see him, dressed up in beautiful clothes, and he's buying it from the assets of the Asomi. Armelahu, yeah, we allow this. It's like a real estate agent who dresses up real nice, so people will think, he's a successful guy. So this guy has a right to dress up nicely from the assets of the Yisomim in order that his business on their behalf will be more successful. So then the relative says, he's eating, he's drinking, and he's a very wealthy guy. He should be paying this for himself. So Aimer Mitzia Ashkach, maybe he found something. And he's not necessarily taking from the assignment. Mafsid, he's causing loss to the assignment. You bring me witnesses that he's spending money inappropriately, and I'll get rid of him. Because if an executor is losing money for the assignment, we get rid of him. The Itmar apetropis shemavsid. Ravuna Amar Rav says misakinan lay. The Bei Rav Shila Amri Lo misakinan lay. V'ilchos misakinan lay. The halacha is we get rid of the executor if we see him losing money for them. We said that if the father appointed the executor, when he makes the final cheshbon with them, he has to take a shvur that he didn't take money. My timer, he loved the isle hanomine. This executor must have had benefit from the father in his lifetime. Otherwise, he wouldn't have accepted the position of being an executor. So therefore, umishum shvua, it's because of the future shvua that he has to take. Lasim lamnui. So just because Bezdin is going to make him take a shvua, it's not going to disincentivize him from doing it, because must be that if he accepted the appointment, the father must have done a toiva for him in his lifetime. While vice versa, minu Bezdin lo yishava. if Bezdin appoints the executor, he doesn't have to show him. Milsa ba'amu da'avid l'bei. He's doing a chesed. V'ramis alei shvuah asilim nui. If they make him take a shvuah at the end, he's not gonna agree to become the executor. And then the Yisomim are not gonna have an executor. And then the Mishnah said the opposite. Abba Shulam Chiluf Advar. He said just the Pum Fakir. My time. Minu Bezdin Yishava. Why, if someone was appointed by Bezdin, should he take an oath? People are hearing that Bezdin appointed this guy to be an executor. Oh, he's a trustworthy guy. So he gets a good reputation. The Bezdin is relying on him. So the fact that we make him take a shvuah, that's not enough to disincentivize him from taking the job. So we can put a shvuah on him. But because if the father appointed the executor, he's doing it as a chesed. He ramis alei shvuah. If we make him take a shvuah, he's not going to accept the job. Says either way, whoever appoints him, he should take a shvuah. That if the father appoints the apotropos, he take an oath, then they should know his schar. Because while doing business for them, he has a certain profit as well. Armelei at Isakabel v'chaltelei. So he's going to say, what kind of benefit? What? I bought a bushel and got more than a bushel? No. So what profit did I get? El'ema, who can kinois his profit? He's getting a certain hana that he must have done. The father must have done a toiva for him in the past. He's paying back, so he got schar as apotropos. So he has to take a shvuah. Okay, I'm going to stop here, and we're going to learn in shul at 6:30 tomorrow.
6:35, it says, Nikolai.
Fine, 6:35.
All right.
Shabbos.
Okay. Shkoyach.
Shabbos.
Have a good
Good
Shabbos,
Shabbos.
everybody.
Shabbos.
Shabbos, everybody.